Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brooks Knows Baseball. This is actually our first time that we are broadcasting with video. This is going to go on our YouTube channel, so it's pretty exciting to get that up and running. But today we are going to do our 30 for 30 series, kind of what we touched on last week of the podcast on our Spotify channels. This is going to be something where we sit down, we go over all 30 teams, their off-season additions, subtractions, outlook, everything like that. So without further ado, the first division that we are going to be doing is the American League East. We're going to go pretty much in alphabetical order here. So today's episode, we're going to be discussing the Baltimore Orioles franchise, a team that in recent years has not done too much. They haven't made the playoffs since 2016. The record last year was 83-79, so it is definitely, I guess it's a good thing to say that they are not having a losing record last year, but they haven't won a World Series since 1983. They do play at the beautiful Camden Yards, which consistently ranks as probably top 3 every year, along with San Fran and Pittsburgh. Still in the nicest stadiums in the country. Brandon Hyde is their manager. Again, he had his first winning season last year, although the seasons before that weren't really too fair to give him a run because there was just nothing there. And then, John, if you'd like to give me any information you have about the Orioles, and then we can kind of just jump into this thing.
Yeah, the first thing I'd like to do is touch some of their acquisitions or the key arrivals. They got, in Rule 5, they got a right-handed pitcher of the Boston organization, Andrew Politi. It's probably going to be tough for him to make the team. They got a solid group of pitchers and starters, and he'd be bullpen, but we'll have to see. But the key starters they added were Cole Irvin. He's out of Oakland. That could be bad or that could be good as far as the stadium. But he's a left-handed starter. He's an innings eater. Not a flamethrower, but that's okay. I think with the pitching coaches they have in Baltimore, he'll improve. So I think that's a good pickup. They got Kyle Gibson, who's like one season he was one season ago, before last year rather, he was a pretty decent player with Texas. So he came from the Phillies. He's a right-handed pitcher that's going to be a starter. Brandon Hyde said that Irvin and Gibson are pretty much a lock for the rotation. They added Michael Gibbons. I think he finished up with the Mets. Former Oriole, another veteran to go along with some of those younger guys in case some of them who performed so great last year fall off. They have him. Then in the rotation, you're going to probably, most likely, unless he blows up, Grayson Rodriguez will be in the rotation. So that's another key addition. Then you got Adam Frazier to play second. He's a season removed from an all-star appearance. He's going to replace Odor. Major upgrade. When people say that the Orioles didn't do anything, right there alone, that's a major upgrade. And then let's go to catcher. You added James McCann from the Mets and got the Mets to eat most of the salary, which is a good thing, to replace Robinson Chirinos. Major upgrade both ways, offensively and defensively. And then one that may make the team they got was Ryan O'Hearn from KC, first base outfield, left-handed hitter to spot Ryan Mountcastle, and he can play corner outfield. As far as additions and subtraction, that's the major ones.
Yep.
Do you want to go on now, or do you want to talk about who I think is their rookies to watch, or do you want to go into that yet?
Yeah, let's just go. One thing I want to talk about definitely the prospects that are coming up. I think with their prospect base, obviously its consensus is number one across the board. It's really, I don't think there's any argument there. As opposed, there is no argument there. So one thing I do want to touch on is the prospects that they do have coming up. So I'd like to think Gunnar Henderson. He's an early favorite for the Rookie of the Year voting for sure. But a lot of people forget that they have a lot of prospects behind him as well. So I think Joey Ortiz is going to have an impact this year. Obviously, we touched on Grayson Rodriguez. But also, I think Colton Cowser and Jordan Westberg, who are also in their top 10 of their prospects, are going to come and have potentially be a good impact. I don't think they're, especially with Cowser and Westberg, they're probably not going to come up right away, maybe around the All-Star break. But there's a lot of additions that is going to happen throughout the season, I believe, in the terms of their prospects just maturing. Which is going to be good for them, and their prospect base is so rich. I also believe that they're going to be able to trade some of those prospects, get a good veteran pitcher, because I think that's the biggest thing that they're missing. I think their bullpen's going to be solid, but I do think they're going to need a good pitcher to make a good solid run at this. And then pretty much in our projections, what you've seen on our website and heard on our podcast recently about the Orioles, that they kind of take into account. I know it's kind of hard to do, but there's talent out there to be had. Maybe it's a Corbin Burns type of an addition. There's really no team in the major leagues can offer them a better package than the Orioles could offer.
Right.
So that's something I'm interested in.
I totally agree with that. They got so much to offer. They may not need him though. They're going to get Means back halfway through the year, supposedly, maybe sooner.
I just think Means he's a solid guy.
Right.
He's a number 2 or number 3. He's not a number 1.
No,
in my
right, but you may have a number 1, Rodriguez.
I agree, but can there think about I guess when the Astros won the World Series, their top 3 pitchers, who can touch that?
Right.
It was Verlander, it was Greinke, and it was Garrett Cole.
Right.
You can't touch that. And then Irvin's an innings eater. Gibson probably an innings eater. It's really right now opening day. I'm looking at Grayson Rodriguez, but on the projected depth chart right now, he's the fourth starter. So, but I think that's just if I was Brandon Hyde, Grayson Rodriguez would be my opening day starter.
Well, I think they'll probably make him back in simply because the innings, they probably don't want him to pitch but a certain amount because he only pitched just under 100 last year. And in the way that teams do everybody now, he's not going to pitch 175 innings this year. So I'm thinking he'll go 5th, miss a start here or there, on rain or something. And I just think they're going to baby him somewhat. And
I'd rather save him for the playoffs anyway, which we'll get to it later if we think they're going to go to the playoffs.
Breaking news today, though, on DL Hall. Did you hear that?
I did not. What's that?
He got a haircut.
Well, you know what? Maybe that'll help project him into the starting rotation and not become a middle relief pitcher, which is what I think he's going to become.
Yeah, well, we disagree there. I think he's going to.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. But he has Brian Mattis written all over him, or Zach Britton written all. Hopefully, Zach Britton as opposed to Mattis. But
don't bring that upon him.
I just. But the thing is, speaking on closers, and if DL Hall, what's going to happen with DL Hall? He can't be the closer here.
No.
You got Felix Bautista. A lot of people don't, quietly. I know I like to say that word quietly a lot, but Felix Bautista had a 2.1 ERA last year, under 1 WHIP as a closer, and he's a little guy at 6'8", 285.
Right.
But I think their bullpen. Michael Givens. I've always liked Michael Givens. I've always thought he's a good pitcher.
Not closer though, but yeah, setup.
No. I mean, he was a good setup man for Zach Britton. His ERA last year was a 3.3, not terrible. Obviously not a world beater last year. He since leaving the Orioles, he went to Colorado, which is pretty much where pitchers go to die. In his first season in Colorado, he only pitched 9 innings because of injuries. Or that was 2020 in the Orioles traded him. Excuse me. And then 21, he had a 2.7 in Colorado. That's fantastic, I think. And then Cincinnati, in 21, it wasn't very good at a 4.2. He rebounded really good in 22 with the Chicago Cubs at a 2.6, and with the Mets, it wasn't too good with the Mets. In 20 innings, he had a 4.7. But it seems to me a lot of the times when these guys get traded, it can be hit or miss. But overall, he had a 3.3 last year, which is something good.
I think he'll be a good addition with it. And I take a high view of the pitching coaches and the way they deal with their analytics and how they help their players. I mean, they've taken players off the scrap heap and made something out of them. You go down the list. Look at Austin Voth last year. When he came from D.C., Washington, I think he was like a 10-something ERA. He ended up the year with a 4.34, but it was just over 3 with the Orioles. And then you take people like Spencer Watkins. He was out of baseball. He was going back to be a school teacher. He was.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even see him making a team this year, but still.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple other people that people want up there, like Bruce Zimmerman, to make it. I don't see it. No,
No.
he got hammered in Norfolk. So,
No.
and I don't think I like pitchers that throw the ball hard, and he's not a
Yeah.
thrower. But
Yeah.
then what position you want to get to next? Catchers.
Yeah, let's just run it down here. Catcher to DH. Really, I guess we can do now. So catcher, I think this addition offensively is going to be nothing, but I think it is a decent veteran move, especially Adley being so young, only having limited experience. Getting James McCann, I think that's good. But obviously he's playing second fiddle to Adley Rutschman, who I personally believe he's the best catcher in the American League right now.
And he can play some first base, McCann, or as can Adley.
Adley has beefed up as well. I saw some pictures of him, and I think he's looking like a 35 to 40 home run guy right now.
Yeah, I don't. He had a ton of doubles last year, and some of those are going to start going over the fence. But
he looks a lot stronger than he did last year, which is, I think offensively, you're gonna see a big increase in home run output from him for sure.
Yeah, and again, McCann, I think it's got a huge upgrade over Chirinos. Personally.
Yeah, Trinos was. Yeah, I agree on that 100%. Another thing, I guess, kind of moving on there, we go to first base. We got Ryan Mountcastle, who's the former AAA MVP. What are your thoughts on Ryan?
Well, I think his home run numbers were down, but that left field wall contributed to that quite a bit.
It's a solid offensive year.
I like him a lot, but he still strikes out a lot, doesn't walk enough. He needs to get on base more. Be a little more consistent. I think he's a 260 lifetime hitter.
Yeah, 261. His on base last year was only 305, which is not great.
But his defense is 995 last year. That's good. His defense, he's played everywhere but the electric chair, and he's finally settling in at first. I think he's gonna be a really good first baseman.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a top half guy at first base. I've been a fan of his for quite some time. Looking at that wall moved out, his power took a massive drop off, but with that cavernous area, they added in a cameo, which I don't like. He only hit 22 home runs, which is a massive drop off from 33 the year before. RBI's only dropped to 85 from 89. He's walks only 43 walks, strikes out 154 times. Out of 555 at bats, 250 average. But I think Mountcastle is going to be a solid player for the Orioles this year. Excuse me. You definitely need a good power bat at first base, so hopefully we can see a little bit more of an uptick in his home runs. Let's get him about 25 to 30.
Right.
And then second base, we got newcomer Adam Frazier. Who he definitely had a down year last year, only hitting 238. There's no power there. 3 home runs, 42 RBIs. He's on the wrong side of 30, which is not a good thing. He's 31, and he's He's a year or two, I guess, removed from All-Star season.
A year.
Yeah, a year removed. In 21, he ended up hitting. He was at 324. For the Pirates, which
then he went to San Diego,
in at 267. So you're not getting any power out of that bat. But moving on from there.
Hold on 1 second. Let me. They think he may platoon with Urias at second. Because Frazier's a lefty, Urias is a right-hander. They may platoon. They got so many movable parts in the infield. That may be what happens there. Personally, I would like to see them put at short, put Urias at third base where he won the Gold Glove last year. Leave Frazier full time at second, and then Mountcastle. Because I'm not a big Mateo fan. I know he steals bases, and I know he's a great fielder, but Gunnar is a better hitter, probably equal in the field. He's very athletic for a big man. I'm almost thinking of Mateo. If he starts off good and they decide they can get a pitcher, they may move him because you're going to have to force feed Westberg in there somewhere. He's 24. It's time to go. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, then you got Ortiz. I believe he may be 23 or 24. Also, I think he's 24 this season. But I mean, either you're going to have to play him or get rid of him. You know,
I
and
agree.
do you think the upside's bigger for Westberg and Ortiz or Mateo and Urias?
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I agree. I guess we can go ahead and move on here. The player that everybody wants to talk about, the number one prospect in all of baseball, Mr. Gunnar Henderson himself.
I love Gunnar Henderson, obviously. He came up and had over 100 at bats last year. I think he had 259, but homered his first game. Defense is good, speed's good. His attitude's amazing. He's just one of those guys that's gun ho, and he can hit the ball to all fields. Like I said, his defense is good. He can play. I guess he's played pretty much everywhere in the infield, But I they say they might move between short and third. I wish they just kind of keep him at one spot, being shortstop personally, you know,
Yep.
or third,
I
and then
think
bring it
he's
forward.
going to be third baseman. I think he's going to be third baseman for sure.
Yeah, he's getting
Uh,
almost got Cal Ripken size too. He's a big boy.
yeah. One thing I just he's my favorite definitely for the rookie of the year for sure. Just with everything, and a player that he really reminds me of is Bobby Witt. I
Yeah,
think they're very similar players.
yeah. Well, yeah. Poor Bobby.
Which was that's a good thing. I think Bobby's a hell of a baseball
Oh,
player.
I do too. He's just stuck in a bad situation, I think.
Yes, but if Gunnar hits 250, hopefully he gets better than 259. But if he hits 259, 20 home runs, 80 RBIs, would you say it's a successful year?
Yes, for first year.
And that's what Bobby did last year.
Yeah.
So Bobby's Gunnar should be a better fielder though.
Yeah.
Hopefully. After Bobby, we go to the outfield, where we got Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins, Anthony Santander, and then Kyle Stowers and Ryan McKenna.
Well, my feeling is, Santander, I would probably trade him at some point. I know they love him because he had 33 home runs and all that, but he's a 240 hitter. He's been there a while. I think he's one of those guys that got you to this point, time to go get someone else. And if Kalzer rips up in Norfolk, then it's time. Or maybe.
Well, I think it's kind of like we were discussing previously. You might be a good player on a 62 win team, a 60 win team.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean you're going to be a good player in a 90 win team.
That's right. Right.
So, I think there does need to be some changes. I would like to go with youth. Mullins. Hey, I don't say I'm necessarily a big fan of Cedric Mullins, but
his feelings is top notch. He's saved them so many times. He can track a ball like nobody.
Yeah.
And then he quit to switch hitting. That was a good thing for him. So.
When did he quit switching? Do you know what year?
2 years ago when he made the All-Star team.
Yeah, so that 290, he had 30 home runs, 59 RBIs, hit 291, so he had a 30-30 year in 21.
Yeah, and he still had a good last year. I mean, regardless.
He plays a lot, too.
Yeah, he played a lot last years. But, he's strictly hitting left now. Basically, last year, from what I understand, what I've seen, he was trying to hit too many home runs. That was hurting everything. He needs something to worry about the home runs. He's fast. He stole, 30-some bases. So, and his defense, like I said, his defense.
Like Lou Brown says, hit it on the ground, get on base. Don't worry about hitting home runs.
Right. It'll come if it's coming. But, someone else, I almost think it's time to move on from Austin Hayes. We've been expecting a lot from him, and it just hadn't.
Yes.
What do you hit?
He's the guy, like, again, just you're good on a crap team, but he's not a kind of player. He's not the type of player who's going to be on a winning team.
If it were me, if Kalzer produces or Hurston Hierstadt, who, by the way, hit 2 home runs today in the first spring training game. He's healthy now. He's ripping the ball. But, if it were me, if him and Kalzer hit, I'd get him up there and Stowers and Mullins and keep all them. I'm not a big McKenna fan, although I'll say in McKenna, he can play anywhere in the outfit. He is a good fielder. He's a light hitter. But when he plays every day in AAA, he really nails it, So maybe he just needs to play. But What are your feelings? Anything else in the outfield?
What are your thoughts on Kyle Stowers? I mean, do you think he's an answer for an everyday type of player, or
Yep.
do you think he's more of a platoon guy?
No, I don't think he's platoon. I think he needs to play every day because they started playing him more at the end of the year. He started hitting again. He don't need to sit and watch. His
He's got good size.
I know he's a big boy. He can move. He can field. I mean, Santander is a liability in the outfield.
Yeah,
That they got to think
yeah.
of that. You talk about what your pitchers are doing. Well, help them out. Get you a right field.
I'm hoping. I'm just looking at some additional stats here while we're talking. Um, I've been a big fan of Kerstead since the draft. I remember draft night. You asked me who do I think the Orioles could take. I said Kerstead. Probably not many people thought that apart from me and Elias, but uh, in the Arizona Fall League,
He hit it.
in 22 games, he hit
Who's
he
MVP?
hit
Wasn't he?
three. Yeah, I
Go
mean
ahead.
it's just ridiculous. I'm looking, um, what? Yeah, so he hit 357, 5 home runs. But then you don't forget in Arkansas. Don't count the 2020 season because I don't count that. But the year before that, he played in 65 games, hit 327, 17 home runs, and 51 RBIs in the SEC. That's unheard of. And then all he's done apart from his really, he hits and he hits good. So
Power, big power.
I'm hoping he's an older guy, and I don't think you need to mature him too much. He's 24. There's not much more he's going to learn. I don't think. I mean, why would you want to wait if you don't call him up this year until he's
Well,
a 25-year-old first round prospect? I know he had some injuries and a heart issue, but
myocarditis.
I think if he rakes in spring, he needs to be in Norfolk because the SEC is like a lower level minor leagues anyway. So count that as A ball and AA years, pretty much.
Yeah. At worst,
And
I'd start him up for a month and Bowie, make sure he's hitting, everything's good, and then bring him up to Norfolk, and then towards the end of the
I
year.
think it depends on how he does though in
That's
spring
true.
training. I mean, if he hits 112 in spring training, yeah, start him in Bowie. But if he hits, I'd say if he's like 280 or higher in spring, I'd start him in Norfolk.
Right. Judge
What,
on
what,
who he's facing, because if he's coming in the eighth,
yeah,
ninth inning in a spring game, he's facing double A guys anyway. So,
yeah.
there's a lot of variables there. But yeah, today I know his first home run was off a major league pitcher. So there you
Well, Norfolk's known as a hitter's park, so that'll
go.
help him learn
Yeah.
too.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that pretty much gives us the rundown there of the Orioles roster, their depth chart, projected depth chart at least. Another thing we can look at right now, our projections and our 2023 outlook for them. I know based on our article that we released earlier this month, we had the Orioles surprising a lot of people going pretty far in the playoffs. So I personally believe, again, if they make those adjustments, if those prospects mature the way that they're supposed to mature, we see them making a deep playoff run. Again, if you go ahead and read our article, we actually have them. Our prediction for them this year, we don't think they're going to win the division. I don't even think they're going to finish second in the division. I think they're going to finish third in the division behind. Come back to our next shows to find out who I think are going to finish, but I think they're going to finish third in the division.
Well, real quick,
Uh,
something I want to go back over. We covered everything, but we didn't go over the pitching quite enough. I mean, we didn't even mention Dylan Tate. Now he's supposedly going to miss the first month of the season. He's got some kind of flexor muscle deal in his arm. Dylan Tate, that was his best year last year, 3.05 ERA. He pitched in 67 games. I watched that team quite a bit, and he did good.
Dylan Tate?
Yes, Dylan Tate. I'm a big Dylan Tate fan. Tyler, well,
You're missing it, man. You're missing it. Dylan Tate.
yeah. I'm Dylan Tate. I my hand's too big. Anyway, and then you got, what about Tyler Wells? Where's he fit in the rotation? Kyle Bradish. Did he went into Houston and shut them out? I believe it's a complete game or 8 2/3 or something. I don't remember the exact, but he had 2 games against 2 good teams there near the end of the year. When he came back from Norfolk, he went back. He didn't do so well. He got hurt, went down to Norfolk, made a start or 2, come back up, and he was a different guy.
Yep.
There's guys that were on this staff last year. I don't see him making it. When we talk about the bullpen, we didn't talk about CNL Perez. What about his numbers? Let's see. CNL last year, he had a high ERA of whopping 1.40 last year. I mean, he was a pitcher that basically no one wanted. But see, what you got to realize is, where did he start out with? Who was responsible in helping get him signed? He started out in Houston. with the lights.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was 1-4 in 66 games. That he did really good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad he kind of don't leave any stones unturned for sure. But um, again, there are record projections kind of going back to that topic. So we have the Orioles winning 87 games, going 87-75. What do you think of that?
I think it's pretty solid. Pretty solid.
That's good enough for third place. It's good enough for a wild card spot as well. And then we have them shocking a lot of people in the wild card again. We have them winning their wild card game, winning their divisional game, and unfortunately, I think it's a year too early to say winning it all. I have them losing the ALCS to another team, which we'll talk on
Yeah,
in a couple.
I think they're a couple years away, but
I don't think a couple years. I think a year.
well, I wouldn't mind a brief step back this year if we're getting some younger players in there to build the roster for the future. Like I say, I wouldn't mind Westberg up there. He's produced everywhere. Kierstadt, um, Stowers, let him play all the time. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Even if you say we drop back to 81 or 79 and 83, I wouldn't like that, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Maybe. I know they're over and under. They're set at 77. I know a lot of teams, or I don't know if a lot of teams. It seems like a lot of teams will make that 1 year. They'll surprise people and they will have that setback. But
my last comment.
I think it's not there.
Well, my last comment is the people. If you read social media, the fans are all over Mike Elias because we didn't sign this guy, we didn't sign that. Well, did he sign him in Houston? No, he signed the guys he brought up from the system. They'd occasionally trade for a guy like the pitchers you mentioned earlier, and a guy here or there. But he improved the positions that need improved. I mean, when you put Frazier or Urias at second over Odor, holy crap, that's a huge improvement. Mr. Strikeout and make occasional big play in the clutch or big hit, but his fielding sucked. Let's be honest. He's not. He shouldn't be on that team. Chirinos, Grandpa Moses there. He should have retired 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think they improved the spots they needed to. I think they're a lot better off than people think they are. And the manager's the right manager, and the coaches are amazing there. But that's all I have to say. Let Elias do his job.
Yeah, well, that'll kind of conclude our Oriole episode today. If you guys want to go ahead and make sure to check back tomorrow, we're going to be touching on the Red Sox. So we'll go up to Fenway Park there. But before we go, we would like to give a shout out to our sponsor today. And actually, this company is sponsoring the entirety of the American League 30 for 30 series. Sorry, ESPN, please don't sue us. But we would like to give a shout out to Jane's Creations. I just got one here. It looks like a good opening day banner we're going to hang on the front door here. But again, Jane's Creations, we're going to have a link on our website. Take you straight to her stuff to get any of her products you need. Again, Jane's Creations, they create homemade wreaths. The wreaths are their specialty, but there's other things as well. She's starting to get into the blankets and things like that. So it's good local business as well. So just make sure you support that. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do this as well. So we definitely want to give them a thanks. But yeah, John, I'll let you do the sign off to close us out for our first YouTube video. But again, everyone like it, share it. This is going on YouTube, so please subscribe to it as well. Set the notification button on as well. If you would like to be informed when we go for our future episodes here, we'll do some lives on it. We went live on Instagram, showing you guys some behind the scenes, some article writes and everything like that. But we're going to have at least 5 articles coming out this upcoming week as well. Apart from every single day, we're going to be releasing a video this week. So definitely take a look at that. This is the biggest project we've had so far. But I'll shut up now. John, you can do the sign off.
All right. As usual, that's all for now, folks. See you next time on Brooks Knows Baseball.
Good night.